Okay, hello on this 20th Sunday in Ordinary Time. A little bit of strange sayings from Jesus in today's gospel passage. We have a Syrophoenician woman asking Jesus to cure, I guess it's her daughter. I could be wrong on that. Someone needs some healing or a servant. I'll have to check the text again. But I really don't want to focus in on that today. And Jesus' first response is to ignore her. He remains silent. The second is that he tells her that he must attend to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. And then finally, the third thing he tells her is that it's not right to give the food to the dogs. Okay. Very interesting passage. What is going on here? Okay. So, as I always love to do, what's the larger context of this passage? Where does this passage fit into the rest of the Gospel of Matthew? And we're going to look at chapters 14 and 15 of the Gospel of Matthew, and we're going to look at two bookends, sort of in the beginning of chapter 14, a Gospel reading that we had 2 weeks ago, I believe, and that's the multiplication of the loaves and the fishes. So we had 5 loaves, 2 fishes, fed 5,000 people, not counting women and children. And then there were 12 wicker baskets left over of food. Okay, bookend 1. The other bookend is the multiplication of the loaves and the fishes. Okay, but in this time we have 7 loaves and a few fishes. That's what the text says. We have 4,000 men, not counting women and children. And then we have 7 wicker baskets full. So, is it the same story? Why does Matthew have it mentioned twice? All important questions, but to cut to the chase, I will say they are 2 separate events. And we might think that the disciples are kind of being dumb because in the second multiplication of loaves and the fishes, the same problems presented, large group of people, not enough food, and they act like Jesus didn't multiply the loaves and the fishes the first time, okay? They're not dumb. There's a reason why they acted the way they did, okay? And that will help also explain the strange sayings of Jesus in today's gospel. So with those 2 bookends, whenever you have those bookends like that, kind of a similar story, what's in the middle, okay? And there are 2 important passages that are crammed in between the 2 events of the multiplication of loaves and the fishes, okay? One of them is today's gospel passage, and the other one is that which precedes today's gospel passage, not in our Sunday lectionary cycle. We skipped over that, but still definitely worth mentioning, okay? And it's this. Here's the passage that we did not get in our Sunday readings. Delegates from the Pharisees and Sadducees from Jerusalem. Okay, so that's a big deal right there. Okay, that's like officials from the Vatican coming over to talk about, to come talk to me about my homilies and the content of my homilies. All right, that's what's happening here. Big shots. The leaders from Jerusalem are sending officials to confront Jesus about what? About his actions and about his teachings. All right. The confrontation is this. They are having a problem with Jesus not following the washing ceremonial laws before eating. Okay. So whatever has been prescribed by these gentlemen, wash your hands, do this, purify yourself here before you eat. Jesus is not doing it. His disciples aren't doing it. And they have a problem with that. Okay. And there's probably other things, but this is what Matthew brings up. Okay, so they confront Jesus about this. And Jesus calls out their hypocrisy. So he's not just calling out these officials. He's calling out the big shots in Jerusalem. Okay, again, this is going to continue the wheels of motion that's going to lead to his passion. All right. So he confronts them. He says, you know what, you're so tied up in these little traditions, as he calls them, these little rituals, but yet you neglect God's commandments. And he gives some examples of how they do it, how they neglect the care of their parents and say that the money that goes to the care of their parents is set aside for God. Thereby they're forsaken the fourth commandment. There's other examples, but the gist of the story is this: that Jesus says at the end of this passage that what defiles a person isn't from what comes from the outside. Okay, what defiles a person is what comes from within the heart. All right, then he lists a bunch of vices: pride, greed, jealousy, lust, all those things. That's what he mentions. He says that's what truly defiles a person. Okay, not that, you ate the wrong thing, you didn't wash your hands, all this stuff. That's not the problem. The problem is what comes from within the heart. And this is how he's establishing the kingdom. So in chapter 13, all those parables about the kingdom, that's essentially what he's getting at. He's building a kingdom where the people's hearts are dedicated to God and to his reign. Okay, that's what he's after. All right, and so the first passage in between the multiplication of the loaves and the fishes is Jesus calling out the big shots, the big teachers, the one who are supposed to be the great religious leaders, calling out their hypocrisy because they care more about what's on the outside, but yet their hearts are wicked, their hearts are hardened. And because of that, they're going to be excluded from the kingdom. They're not going to be a part of the kingdom. They're not going to be leaders in this kingdom that he's establishing. All right, because of the hardness of their heart. Okay, so now we go to this woman. So in the very next passage, they're traveling, and this Canaanite woman, this Syro-Phoenician woman, a Gentile. Matthew's really laying it on thick here. This is supposed to be like the lowest of the low. This was a great enemy of Israel. This was a great enemy of the people of Israel. Okay, the Canaanites, the Syro-Phoenicians. Okay, back and forth between the two. All right, calling each other dogs. All right, insulting, killing, just pure hatred between, again, the house of Israel and the group that this woman represents. All right. So this is like, you would think, well, who makes up this new David kingdom? Who makes up this new kingdom of God? This would be the last person you think that would be included into this. Okay. But she has a problem. All right. Someone is ill. She's calling out with faith to Jesus. And so Jesus does these strange actions. Why? Okay. Why does he first ignore her? Why does he say, I must go to the house of Israel? Why must he say, is it right to give the food and throw it to the dogs? Why is he saying these things? Not to build her faith. Her faith is already there. It's to build the faith and also to give the understanding of the true nature of the kingdom to the apostles that are around him. It's for them. He's going to use her faith to show what real faith is and what it truly means to be a member of God's kingdom. Okay? Because notice her persistence. Between the silence, she keeps calling out. By the way, the apostles, as she keeps calling out, the apostles are like, okay, we should dismiss her. Someone get rid of her, right? Like they want no part of this person. All right? And then Jesus emphasizes, I must go to the house of Israel, which is true. The first thing he always does is go to the house of Israel, but we're going to see that then when he's rejected in the house of Israel, he's going to extend his kingdom to the Gentiles. All right? But the apostles don't know that yet. All right? They don't know that yet. And then finally, he gives in to the cultural situation. He plays into the hatred between his group of people, his fellow Israelites, and her group of people. But she doesn't care. She believes, right? She believes of him to be the Son of God. She believes in the power, and she's reaching out to him. And Jesus is going to tell these apostles that, yeah, she's also a part of the kingdom. Her faith is great. In fact, he even remarks about how strong her faith is. And so that passage leads into the second account, the end of this section, the second multiplication of loaves and the fishes. The details are different, okay? The loaves are different. The number of people are different. The amount of leftover is different. But all these things symbolize the Gentiles. And in fact, this second multiplication of loaves of the fishes is for the Gentiles. The Gentiles, they are in Gentile territory right now. And so the apostles, they don't put two and two together, because the first multiplication of the loaves and the fishes were for the Israelites. It's for the Jews. And they didn't think Jesus would do this miracle again to feed the Gentiles. This is why this whole passage with this woman is to build their faith, right? To build their faith. They weren't dumb. They know Jesus has the power to do it. They just didn't think he would do it. They don't understand the true nature of the kingdom yet. And there's still going to be a lot more learning to do. They are so far behind, okay, in what the true nature of the kingdom of God is and what Jesus is trying to do. And he's even going to call them out on it. We might get this passage next week or the week after, so I won't touch on it right now. But the whole point of all this is that Jesus uses the faith of this woman to strengthen the faith of others. And he's going to do that with us as well. Your trials are nothing but a build in your faith. And guess what? That's also going to be a help to those around you. You're going to use your experiences. You're going to use everything that's happened in your life and the trials and your trials of faith that in the end, hopefully was built up and you're stronger because of it. It's also going to be a powerful tool and example to build the faith of others. Okay. And I think that's what this passage is all about. Jesus knows the faith of this woman, and Jesus is now going to bring out this faith first and foremost with the silence of God, right? Sometimes God is silent to build our faith, to challenge our understanding of God's mission. You know, like again, in the case of the, I must come to the house of Israel. And then finally, again, to throw with the dogs, to challenge what the culture says around us and about us and about God. And to challenge, and again, to bring out that deep trust and faith in God, to bring it out, not only for our benefit, but like in this case, the benefit of the apostles around her and the benefit of those around us. Your faith, a powerful tool that God will bring out, not only to strengthen you, but to strengthen others around you. May God bless you.